Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggerdan.
Colin Richardson.
And as you guys know, I told you we're going to probably try to bring some NFL into the talk because, of course, I'm a Titans fan. I've already said it on the podcast a couple times. Pretty excited about one of those guys I got to watch when I covered college football last year and Cam Ward taking over. But also, Colin, new to the podcast, hasn't been on for any college football, but is going to be my guy for the NFL. Obviously, me and him talk a lot about football as we're watching on Sundays. So, Colin, you want to introduce yourself and like what your fandoms are?
Yeah, so I'm a big Steelers fan. I've always been a Steelers fan. Try and go to a game a year or something. Uh, I'm more of an NFL type of guy than college football. I think NFL, you can really kind of build a team, and those players kind of stay year after year after year. Like I remember watching TJ Watt his rookie year. Can still remember his first game playing. He got a pick against the Browns, and now he's kind of older veteran, and he's like some plays this year. You're like, wow, he probably would have made that play 2 years ago when he was a little bit more spry. But yeah, so more of an NFL type of guy.
Yeah, and obviously, me and you both are Virginia Tech fans when it comes to college football.
Yeah,
I might have to bring you on and do a little mix mash sometime this year, maybe. But that isn't much of fun to watch right now.
not Virginia Tech.
And like I said before, I'm a Titans fan, so I had the same situation with the Titans last year, where we were not worth watching. It was pretty rough. I know you always obviously you've had the Steelers for a while now, so they are at least a winning team every year.
We're gonna go at least 500 every year, but not anywhere else.
Yeah, and I don't know what the playoff win drought is, but I do know that that's something that's kind of been a talking point. And
Yeah,
I think that I mean, this to me, just watching early on with them, could be the most excited you could be in the last couple of years if they keep their quarterback play the same way it has been through 2 weeks. But we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to that game. And first things first, we'll just talk about the Thursday night football game that happened between the Packers and the Commanders. Obviously, the big talking point here was. Micah Parsons is a complete game changer for this Packers defense. They have made two really good offenses in the first 2 weeks look really bad. So I don't know what you think about it, but how much of a difference maker is he?
yeah. I mean, I just saw the play of him coming around the edge. I mean, he looked unblockable. It was like double teamed. He just split right through it. And then Jordan Love, he's looked really good this year too. So I think Packers, honestly, so far, them and the Bills, I think could be a very possible Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah, and that would be a fun one. I think a lot of people would be
Yeah.
happy with that matchup. And honestly, it would be one of those matchups where you don't hate either team. I feel like there's a lot of people that are fans of those two, or not fans, but they don't hate those two teams. They kind of
Right.
enjoy pulling for those two teams. So that would be a really fun one. Obviously, you look at the stat lines there. Just having the leading passer, rusher, and receiver all coming from the Packers kind of shows you the dominance they had in this game. Tucker Kraft has been unreal early on. Seems like the favorite target for Jordan Love, and they went out and tried to address the receiver position with Matthew Golden, and obviously they've got that roster loaded with a bunch of what a lot of people would call wide receiver twos or wide receiver threes, and so they don't really have that top dog. And if Tucker Kraft can step up and be that guy, who knows what the offense can be? And they already have a really good football team. If the offense is getting better and that defense has clearly gotten better, it could be a lot of fun to watch the Packers play some football this season. Moving over onto our Sunday day slate, of course, you'll see early in these processes, we got a lot of really fun football games, a lot of close ones other than this Lions Bear game, and obviously starting up here at the top with probably the single biggest headline to happen so far since the season's actually started, and that's the fact that Joe Burrow is done for at least 3 months with a tear, completely tearing his toe up with some turf toe. You're gonna have to have surgery. Colin, what do you think that happens to the Bengals the rest of the year?
They do have Jake Browning, who played quite a bit last year. I'd say arguably he's the second best backup behind Kirk Cousins. So I think they're fine with Jake Browning, but at some point they need to focus on getting an offensive line.
Yeah.
You've got Orlando Brown Jr., and that's like the only guy I can name on their line.
Yeah, it is rough. I mean, it is just Joe Burrow getting killed. It's been the same exact thing since ever since they drafted Jamar Chase, and you always saw that meme of if we'd have drafted Penei Sewell, and it's like he's back there, but he's throwing it and nobody's catching it. And then it's like if we drafted Jamar Chase, and it's just the quarterback getting lit up every time. And I
Exactly.
mean, it is true. That's exactly what's happened to Burrow. He's one of the most sacked quarterbacks since he was drafted, and they don't seem to address that issue ever. And I think that one of the bigger things that they could have done this offseason was let T. Higgins walk. And I know it's so hard to let really good receivers walk. I, as a Titans fan, know that if we had A.J. Brown, things probably would have been a lot better. But if you have to do it to protect your quarterback, that is the single most important position on the field, you have to do it. And I don't think that they're serious enough about it. And his health is a true concern for probably the rest of his career. It kind of reminds you of that Andrew Luck arc where Luck always was really good and always could get the Colts in the right situations. But who knows when who knew he was going to be able to play in those games. On the other side for the Jags, of course, T. Law has looked a lot better to start the season. ETN kind of has a revival, but another fun name on that team, obviously Bashal Tootin. What have you seen from him and so far in his short time in the NFL?
I haven't been able to really watch many of the Bengals games. I'm always locked into
Yeah,
Pittsburgh during that 1 o'clock window. But I saw he did get some carries this past weekend. Also want to point out Jamar Chase had 14 catches for 165 yards and a
yeah.
touchdown. He was a nightmare to play in fantasy this week.
Yeah. Yeah, and he always is like that. I mean, this guy's it's him, it's CeeDee Lamb, it's Justin Jefferson, those names that are always consistent in fantasy football. And that's something else we may talk about some on this podcast if we kind of get into it more. We might even bring up some of our statistics in our leagues and whatnot. But again, fantasy football obviously being a big part of the NFL, another reason why probably you and a lot of people enjoy it. You get that aspect of you kind of feel like you have a little more in it because you're controlling players on a team and have your own team as part of it. Going down to this next game here, Giants Cowboys. If anybody saw this one, it was probably the single craziest game of the weekend. Brandon Aubrey is the hero for the Cowboys. There was a whole conversation of if we took everybody in the NFL, put them into a draft, and took out all the quarterbacks and put them on their teams they were already on, where does Brandon Aubrey get drafted? And it's a very fun conversation. And realistically, is he going to go in the top couple rounds? No. But is there a team that might take that shot? Maybe the Raiders, and draft a kicker that high?
I mean, I, it's possible. I mean, the one was what 65 yard,
Yeah,
the 65
64, I
yarder,
believe. Yeah.
64. But I mean, it still had it looked like 10 yards of carry after it
Yeah,
had
he
already went through. He like hit the back of the net. Yeah, he's insane. After week one, I was thinking like Boswell's easily the best kicker in the league, and then I watched that game. I was like, oh no, he's number two.
yeah. Yeah, we had the same conversation last year. I mean, you talked about like how good Chris Boswell was. He was literally,
Yeah,
I mean, he was the Steelers' offense sometimes.
yeah. They won 2 games only kicking field goals. So,
Yeah, and
but
he was a nightmare to face in fantasy as a kicker.
yeah, but no, Aubrey is by far and away the best kicker in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds you of like that prime Justin Tucker, the prime Vinatieri when they
Yeah,
when they stepped up, it was going in. So
exactly.
he's just so good. Looking at the rest of the statistics from this game, there is a real argument that this is Russell Wilson's single best passing game in his entire career, which is, I mean, that's unbelievable that he's doing it at the age he is. I think if you watched week one with the Giants, you'd have said, man, get Russell Wilson off the field. I can't handle watching him play football. And then he just somehow the next week against probably a pretty decent defense, obviously losing their best part. But he goes out there 30 for 41, 450 yards, 3 touchdowns. Finds everybody. Neighbors had a great game. Wandale Robinson had a great game. It just able to kind of connect with the entire offense. And then, of course, on the other side, Dak always does his thing, able to get it done there. And then you look at the rushing statistics. I guess, a name we didn't expect to be as good this year is Javonte Williams, taking over in that backfield. And he's actually had a really, really great start to the year. And then on the other side for the Giants, they have that interesting combo of Tracy and Scadaboo. And again, I don't know what to expect in that backfield. Each and every week, you kind of get a different thing going on. Tracy has the fumble issues. Scadaboo is kind of a big dude that doesn't run very fast. So it'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of the year for those two teams. I don't think either one of them are going to be playoff teams personally. but maybe the Cowboys get things going and that defense is able to kind of stop somebody because giving up 37 to the Giants is pretty rough.
Or how bad do you think Russell Wilson has to be, or the Giants have to be to let Jackson Dart start?
That is a
Because
good question. I don't know. I think that if if Wilson was to play like he did week one and it just kept up for a couple weeks, I think it would have even been gone. End it,
yeah,
let's start Dart. But with him playing like this and giving them a real chance to win games, which I mean, Brian Dable has to coach for his job. I mean, it is, if they don't win this year, I don't even know. I think he's fired probably at the end of the year. And it's a
yeah,
coach that when you're coaching for your job, and it's him and Joe Shane as well, they both are doing that. You have to try to win football games. And if you think Russell Wilson gives you the best chance to do it, you put him out there. And this performance tells you that he probably is your best option. But week one tells you that he's the worst option. So
yeah.
I have no idea. I know you have your experience with Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback of the Steelers.
Yeah, it was definitely very inconsistent, but
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think y'all ever got this kind of game out of him though.
no, definitely not. Maybe his first game
Yeah.
was, well, I mean, it wasn't 450 yards though. No, never mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just it's wild because again I don't know what happened in between the weeks and it wasn't like the Cowboys are a bad football team and you just put up a bunch of yards because of that. But moving on to this next one here again we won't talk much about this one because it was an absolute blowout and the Lions look like the Lions again after that struggle against the Packers week one. Also, this score maybe tells you how good the Packers are. I mean they were able to hold this Lions team to less than three touchdowns and they go out and put up 52 on the Bears. Obviously, the Bears are not a good defensive team. They're not really all that great in general, but they do have a pretty good offense, able to put up 21 points. But the storyline here is just Jared Goff, five passing touchdowns, only five incompletions on the day. Colin, what do you think about this one?
yeah. They really put it to their ex-offensive coordinator,
Yeah.
Ben Johnson. The fans were booing him as soon as he walked out on the field, and then I don't know, maybe they did pile on a few points there at the end of the game to really rub it in his face. But yeah, I mean this just was not a game at all. And Caleb Williams did not look good either, which is kind of concerning if you're a Bears fan. He hasn't looked great in either game so far this year. I was kind of looking for him to have a not a bounce back season because he wasn't good last year, but uh, coming out party this
Yeah.
year. But he has not looked great so far this year. But hopefully he can turn it around. I am a Caleb Williams fan, so
Yeah, and again, he got Odunze going in this one, and that's at least a positive sign because he was the future receiver for them. But I've seen DJ Moore really struggle early in the season, and that's not a positive. Whenever DJ Moore was your leader last year, you'd hope you'd have that returning, and so then you can just kind of add on to DJ Moore with Rome Odunze. It kind of just seems Odunze just took his job, and now DJ Moore's just the second wing to him. You talk about this running game here. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, you could argue that's the single best one and two punch in the entire NFL. Those two guys really work really well together. Obviously, they missed Monty last year when he went down with that serious injury. They didn't have that anymore, and you kind of see how important it is to be able to get that going, get Gibbs up and down the field and Monty in the goal line situations. But again, overall, yeah, you're right. The Lions they were putting it to Ben Johnson. And Amon-Ra St. Brown all offseason said Ben, you just wait to that first game. He said we are going to kill you, and look at the score. I think they pretty much did that 52-21 final. Moving over to our next game here, Rams Titans. Of course, as everybody knows, I'm a Titans fan. I've said it many times on my college podcast, and again, I'm gonna talk about it on this NFL one. I think again we lose this game not like we're supposed to beat this team. This is probably one of the better teams in the NFC. I was really happy with how he played in the first half. I think second half adjustments absolutely killed us because they have a great head coach, and I don't know if we do. I do think that he was able to make those adjustments in there and come out. And of course, when you have Matthew Stafford, probably a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, it's pretty easy to go up and down the field and make plays. Obviously, Devonta Adams has a really good game. Puka had a really good game. Had to face him in fantasy, sadly. And of course, on the other side for the Titans, just to give some props to the guys, I was really happy with how Cam Ward played. He didn't play as good week one, or yeah, as good as he did week one, because again, week one was not his fault at all. I think our play calling was awful, and he was playing the best defense he'll probably play all year. There's an argument this is the second best defense he plays all season. So if he can start like that in the first two games of the year, and that's how you get introduced to the NFL, it's only going to get easier to play other defenses and other coaches. So maybe there's some positives to look for. Colin, what do you think on that?
Cam Ward, I think, has looked really good so far, in my opinion. He hasn't thrown many touchdowns,
Mhm.
but I mean, from what I've seen, I haven't been able to watch much of their games, but it looks like he's been getting a lot of pressure on
Yeah.
him. But some of the throws he's been making are like Will Levis, but actually good,
Yeah.
like some circus throws.
Yeah, and that crossbody touchdown pass to Eligeo Minor was one of the best throws I've seen. And like
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched a lot of football, and he made that throw crossbody. I think they did an NFL Next Gen stats on it, and it was over 30 air yards across the field. So I mean, again, I don't know how he did it. I have no idea, and that's where he gets those Patrick Mahomes comparisons. Even though I mean, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's a completely different player, but he gets those comparisons because of stuff like that. You always see Mahomes. It almost feels like Mahomes and maybe Josh Allen are the only ones that can even do that. So when he does that kind of stuff, you just see the potential. And I've seen from a lot of different sources. Again, he was one of the least respected, one of the most disrespected first round picks, first overall picks that I've ever seen. Part of it being the fact that he was going to the Titans, I think, because we are not a media team. It's just probably one of the smallest markets. But that draft night, they skipped over his draft interview, the
Yeah, it
first
really
overall pick.
it seemed like it was more of like a Shadur Sanders show.
Yeah. And Mel Kiper flipping out saying like, how does Shedeur not go here? Then Shedeur falls to the fifth round. I mean, let's be realistic. He wasn't that bad. Again, he never should have. But I think teams were scared to take him as a backup quarterback because they didn't want what comes with Shedeur potentially. So they stayed away from him. And I think Cam Ward clearly is more talented. I don't know how you could even argue that when you watch their college tape. Cam Ward made that Miami team a contender when they had the single worst defense I've ever watched. I mean, they gave up 40 points. They gave up 35 to Virginia Tech and should have lost. They should have lost that game, giving up 40 to Virginia Tech. So, again, what he did there was impressive, and hopefully what he can do for the Titans will push us in the right direction, and we can be back where we were when we had Tannehill rolling and 14-2 and being the number one seed. Another big thing with the Titans, I got to give some love because you see that flag hanging in the background. Oh, Joey Sly kicking for the Titans has been money. Picked him up in fantasy football. I'm going to rock with him the rest of the way. He's hit multiple 50-yarders. If you remember when he was at Tech, his leg, I mean, it's one of the best I've ever seen at Virginia Tech. So he's a huge, I mean, he's a big dude. They had like a really fun segment in the locker room, and they were like, what are you good at that no, or what's the thing that you're the best at that the rest of the locker room isn't as good at? And Joey Sloss said curls. I'm the best at curls. And somebody said, you're a kicker. And he said, look at my arms. So if you've seen Joey Sly, he probably is the most ripped kicker I've ever seen in my life. So I obviously got to give some love to my tech guy playing for the Titans, which is really fun.
So you prefer him over Randy.
Yeah, I can't stand Fat Randy, Randy Bullock, if everybody knows who that is. He cost us many, many games. One of those was a Steelers game that I was texting Colin afterwards and saying, I can't stand Fat Randy. Moving on to our next game here, Patriots Dolphins. This is two teams that I don't expect a ton out of, but there's a couple players that are really fun to watch on these teams. Obviously, the most fun player to watch is Drake May and seeing what he can do in football. I've always been a huge supporter of him. I think he's going to be really, really good. And I think that behind Jaden Daniels, I think he's clearly been the second best, just with Williams' struggles early on. But I think there's a world where Drake May could be the best. He brings you that rushing upside that you really want in a quarterback now, but he also just seems he can handle and manage the games well. Obviously, you see he accounted for 3 touchdowns for the Patriots, doing some with his legs and obviously passing for the others. And again, they haven't really used some of their players other than him to get things going. One of those which being Travion Henderson. I haven't seen him really be used in this offense, which is interesting. Colin, what do you think about this one?
This was a it was a good game. I caught the end of it. I was more surprised with like Tua. His stat line like looked really good, but just from like watching the end of the game, it he did not look great at all, in my opinion.
No.
Uh, Achan for the Dolphins had a really good game. Um, and then Tyreek Hill, it looks like they finally might have something going there. He struggled last year big time, and then the first game of the year wasn't great, but I saw a video of a reporter asking him about his. It's been like a year since you've had a 30-yard reception. It got him fired up a little bit. Maybe that motivated him
Yeah.
this game.
He
So
needed a little bit of fire under him to go down the field and use his elite speed that he had.
yeah,
I think he's proved he still has it. He was running in some like competitions off the field this offseason and was winning them. So he clearly running against career runners was beating those career runners. So he clearly still has the high level speed to be a outside threat. I just think that part of it is he's not happy. He doesn't want to be there. He's kind of
yeah.
said that a couple times. Who knows if he gets traded at some point this year?
I would like to see him go back. Well, I don't want to see him go back to the Chiefs, but it would be interesting to see if he does go back to the Chiefs, if him and Mahomes still have their connection.
Yeah, and on his way out, he said some things that was a little weird, but also
Yeah,
that connection seems like it could be a potential outcome with the Dolphins being probably, I mean, they look like they have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, but they also just have kind of been dysfunctional. And like you said, stat lines will lie to you, and it happens a lot in football. Tua Tagovailoa is not a good quarterback. I'm just going to say that now. I think that part of it comes from the fact that he had so many mental injuries due to the concussions, and that's really unfortunate. There was a point in his career where they told him he should hang it up, and he didn't want to, so he stayed and played. But I just don't. I do not think that Tua is all that great, and there's been a lot of people argue with me that he is. And then I watch him play, and I'm like, what is he really doing than just tossing the ball out there and letting Waddle and Tyreek run under it and let them make plays? So I think it's kind of coming out now that Tua isn't all that great of a quarterback. But I obviously will do a little bit of hating on some Alabama teams here and there. Moving on to our next one here with the Niners and the Saints. Mac Jones, again,
talk about Alabama.
maybe he's the best Alabama quarterback in the league right now. I don't know. Between him, Tua, and Bryce Young, he might have had the best week.
He definitely
26
did.
39, 279, three touchdowns. Was able to kind of come in for relief of Brock Purdy and just get a win, which is important because Purdy's probably going to be out. I think it's till about week 5 is when they expect him to come back. And obviously, with Purdy getting the contract he got, you have to just hope he comes back and he's good to go because they had to kind of lay back and not do as much as they would have liked to do because they pay the quarterback so much. So this is going to be interesting to see what they do. I think obviously Shanahan is a phenomenal head coach, so he's going to be able to win you some games even when the quarterback play isn't all that good. But it is scary to play a 5-point game with the New Orleans Saints, who's arguably the worst team in the NFL. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, Mac Jones, he had a good game. Kind of surprised.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting 3 touchdowns out of Mac Jones, which he is in a very good offense
Mhm.
and a great offensive mind. Uh, Another thing I'm looking at is Kamara, 21 carries for 99 yards. I might look to see him get traded at some
Yeah.
point this season because the Saints are terrible.
Yeah.
They are they
And
are absolutely awful.
one statistic that's completely unreal. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. You'd have to go stat check it because I have done it multiple times. Alvin Kamara has never rushed for 1,000 yards in
Really,
the NFL, which is I have no idea how that's even possible because there's been years where Alvin Kamara is a top 6 fantasy running back, but it's because he does so much through the air. He catches a ton of passes. He's always been that outlet for whoever he's been playing for. So obviously Rattler now being the quarterback there, I think he's kind of the probably the in between him and whoever they want to go after next. I don't think he'll be the full term guy, but he's using him as a dump off option as well. So Kamara just keeps on pumping at 30 plus years old, and we'll see. I think you're 100% right. He's going to end up somewhere else, make a big difference for somebody at some point. Going to our next one here. Bills, Jets, both of these teams, of course, New York teams. Bills clearly have the upper hand here, and that's even with an injury to Josh Allen in this one, where he got a really bad bloody nose, kind of a scary injury. They said potential that he would be out for a week if they couldn't get him cleared up and ready to go. But I do think Allen's going to play through that, obviously. Colin, your thoughts on that one?
yeah. So after week 1, the Jets put up a real close game with Pittsburgh. That was a great game to watch. And then this week they just like you're thinking maybe the Jets are all right this year, and then this week happens and it's 30-10. Granted, they're playing the Bills, which are one of the top teams in the NFL, but Fields didn't look great. He got injured, I know. Tyrod came in for him. He
Yeah.
threw a touchdown. Uh, Fields fumbled twice. They just didn't look like the same team at all. So kind of concerning if you're a Jets fan. Um, but I don't know. Hopefully Fields come back this week and bounce back.
Yeah, and I think the Jets fans are just kind of numb to it now at this.
Yeah, at this point.
They've endured enough torture. So hopefully he does come back and just kind of gets them in a situation where they're at least winning some football games. I definitely know how it feels as being a Tech fan over the last little bit. When you get in that cycle of just doing the same exact thing over and over and over, it does get tiring. And losing is definitely the worst place to be in. The Jets are probably one of those situations right now where they're just not going to win a lot of football games. You look at the stats. One of the things before the season started was people were kind of harping on the fact that James Cook was used so heavily last year that there's no way he repeats that because it's so hard to continue getting that kind of production from a running back. I don't think he's slowing down. I mean, 21 carries, 132 yards, two touchdowns, in relief for Josh Allen's bloody nose and him not being in being in there the whole time, being able to do his thing that he likes to do. Obviously, one of the better rushers in the league, and Cook is just able to keep going. And this team is really scary. Like you said, when you talk about potential favorites, I think Bills are definitely one of those teams, top of the ACC or AFC. And again, that huge win in week one, which we obviously weren't filming then, would have been the biggest talking point coming back from one of the most impressive wins I think I've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that, I would say the Cowboys game would probably be game of the year, but I think we've probably already saw a game of the year no matter what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Week one.
That, I mean, that was two potential Super Bowl contenders and a game that looked like it was completely over, and somehow the Bills just dug out of it and come back. So yeah,
Yeah.
really fun one there. Moving on to this next game here, Colin, this being your team, I'll go ahead and let you rip on this one.
Yeah, so this was a very disappointing game. Pittsburgh was up at halftime, and then they go down 17 to 14, and then whatever happened on the kickoff. I don't, first of all, I don't know why he's back there returning kickoffs. It's
Yeah.
something he hasn't done since he was a sophomore in college, that Caleb Johnson. And like even at that, he runs a 4.57, so it's not like he's a fast
Yeah.
guy. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure why he's back there. And then some more concerns for Pittsburgh. On the ground, they have been getting gashed this year. The Kenneth Walker, 13 carries, 105 yards, a touchdown. And then uh, Jackson Smith and Jigba over the middle of the field. He gutted them this game. 8 catches for 103 yards. Those were mostly over the middle of the field. And then he did catch one deep ball on Ramsey, which is another concern.
Yeah.
I think you can sometimes see how old that this defense actually is between Cam Hayward, Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay. They've
Yeah.
all definitely lost a step for sure. So, and then Darnold, he threw a early interception, but he overall he looked pretty good. Just kind of a concerning performance from Pittsburgh. Although Aaron Rodgers, he still looked good. He threw two picks. One hit off a guy's hands in the end zone,
Yeah.
so it should have been a touchdown. And
Not
then
really
the
his
other
fault.
one was 4th and 16 or something, so
Yeah.
he just had to throw something up.
Yeah, it's two completely excusable interceptions. That's like, oh well, things like that happen. And again, you're not going to blame it on him. I do think when it comes to quarterback play, this may be the most promising quarterback play they've had
Oh,
since,
for sure.
I mean,
It's
what, 3 years before Roethlisberger retired, maybe?
Yeah, Roethlisberger those last 3 years was bad,
Yeah.
and then this has been by far the best quarterback play that they've had in years. And now this is when the defense decides to crumble. So
Of course, there's always something. There's always
always,
something. But it is huge that they did get that first win, and they got it in
yeah,
really
for sure.
really awesome fashion. Just to kind of talk about that, that hit to win that game, knock the ball loose,
Oh
was
yeah, that was awesome.
yeah, that was an unreal play. That was one of those like you just get hype even if you're not a fan. Like just you get hype watching that play because that's a football play, and
Right.
you see what the Steelers can be. And again, I think that they're going to be able to bounce back from this. I expect that they will be offensively much better than the 17 points that was on the board this week, and they're not going to have to rely so much on Boswell to be the sole point of their offense this year with of course Aaron Rodgers taking over at the helm. Going down to our next one here, another one we don't need to give much light. The Cleveland Browns are just not very good. Joe Flacco, I do think with the way they're going to run this offense, it's just going to be him passing the ball 40 times a game. If they're going to be down this much, he's going to have to throw 60 times a game. So I don't expect anything out of them. They could be in the conversation to pick number one overall. in next year's draft. And then obviously Lamar Jackson is an MVP level player. He has been for the last few years. He shows it once again. He didn't have to do this to the poor Browns, but he just tore them up. And you see they have majority of the statistics coming from Jackson and Flowers. That's been a really good connection so far early on. But one talking point, maybe a negative for the Ravens, if you wanted to find one, was Mark Andrews has been non-existent in their offense the first 2 weeks. A guy that I've solely relied on in my tight end position in the fantasy football for quite some time now. It's biting me in the butt this year. 2 games below 3 points. So I don't know what happened to him. He just seems to not be a target anymore. You got anything about that?
Not about Andrews, but about this game. Another kind of negative for Baltimore would be Derrick Henry's performance. He kind of was a no-show. Game one, he had a great game. He
Yeah.
fumbled there at the end, which is kind of killer, but he didn't really show up this game. And like I say, we know how good Lamar Jackson is, and I mean, I wouldn't be concerned as a Ravens fan. Obviously, you won 41 to 17,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you want to see a little bit more out of Derrick Henry, and also as a Browns fan. Uh, Myles Garrett has 4 sacks this year through 2 games, which is insane.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's like, what else can he do?
what else can he do? And then he also signed that extension, so you kind of feel for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's locked in.
Yeah, he's unfortunately locked in with the
But
Browns.
again, he's making his money, so he'll be all
Exactly.
right. He'll be all right. Obviously the Browns again. I don't know how you're a Browns fan. I would have probably jumped ship. I'm a Titans fan, and we've had some bad years, but we've also had some really high highs when we were able to beat the Ravens when they were the 1 seed. I've had some fun watching the Titans. I don't think it's ever fun to watch the
No.
Browns play football. So
Unfortunately, the only fun the Browns have had is when they beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs, which, and then you let Baker go after that for some
yeah,
reason.
yeah, that's another point. They probably feel like the biggest bunch of idiots because Baker Mayfield is a potential top 10 quarterback now. And I mean, he is letting it go for the Buccaneers every week, and he's doing it right now without his probably second best target in Chris Godwin. So when Godwin comes back and he adds to an offense that already looks incredible, I mean, what can that guy do to boost things for you? It definitely looks like a really poor decision from the Browns, and that QB cycle. It's like I don't know how many 30 quarterbacks that they went through or something ridiculous. Who knows when it'll ever stop?
Dylan Gabriel did get his first passing touchdown this game though, so
Yeah,
there's a
and
positive.
it does seem that he is going to be the backup. It does seem that he's getting
Yeah,
the guy. It seems like in practice that's something that's been clearly stated that if they go to somebody else, it'll be him first. Going to our next game here, the Broncos and the Colts. And if you saw how this one ended, it was one of the wildest endings to a football game. Again, we had a lot of crazy games this week. Kind of a big talking point is the NFL so far has been really good, really competitive. And that's something you might not see in college sometimes. But the leverage penalty that was called to take a 60-yard miss and turn it into a 45-yard make to beat the Broncos. Again, the leverage penalty is one of the least cost penalties in the NFL. 15 yards, too, one of the biggest punishments for a penalty. And obviously, that is the game changer. And Sean Payton was freaking out on the sideline because, again, this is a penalty that they just don't call. It's just never called. And completely changes this one. Of course, Spencer Schrader now gets to keep his perfect kick streak going. Colin, what were your thoughts on this game?
yeah, it was a really good game. I can't imagine what the Broncos fans were going through there at the end of the game. I know I would have been very heated.
Yeah.
Another thing to for this game is Daniel Jones has been very good this year, which is very surprising.
Yeah.
Uh, 23 for 34, 316 yards and another touchdown. And then, I mean, we already know Jonathan Taylor, he's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but Daniel Jones has been very surprising this year.
Yeah, and it's probably one of the biggest talking points when it comes to quarterbacks. I don't think anybody expected he would be this good. Now,
No.
I think that there was the whole argument that he's going to be a better passer than Anthony Richardson because I mean, Richardson has struggled so much with just being an accurate passer. But he has brought the same kind of running game that Richardson was bringing them, which is his dynamic ability to make plays. in the red zone, he has more carries than Jalen Hurts, who gets the ball every time they're inside the 2 yard line. And so it's crazy. I mean, he's getting goal line touches. It's unreal. He's become a extremely valuable fantasy quarterback, which is something I thought I'd never say about Daniel Jones because of his inability to keep the ball in their possession. The turnovers always docked him a ton of points when he would have pretty good games. I don't know if you expect the Colts to do this all year. They become a potential playoff team if Daniel
for
Jones is
sure.
going to play like this. I mean, they beat the Broncos, who is, again, one of the teams in a really, really tough AFC West that's expected to compete for the playoffs. And I don't know. Before the season started, I said I don't know who's going to win the AFC South, but the way the Colts look, they look like the surefire favorite early on, especially because of the starts from everybody else in that division. And then, of course, another breakout candidate that you have to talk about, Troy Franklin. Really cool because him and Bo Nix played together before in college. Now they're playing again together, and they have one of the best connections in football because of that. But now he's become potentially a lead target. Now, of course, they still have Cortland Sutton, who is one of the best 50-50 ball guys in the entire NFL. But now you add this dynamic threat in Franklin, and Nix has not had great games so far. He turned the ball over a ton against the Titans. He had some issues here against the Colts. But again, I still think that they have a lot to look forward to because that defense is just unreal, and it will probably win them some games down the stretch. Moving into our next one here, we have Panthers Cardinals. I don't think anybody would have also told you that the Cardinals would be 2-0, but if you did take a peek at their schedule, you probably could have said, yeah, they're going to be 2-0 because they got to play the Saints and the Panthers early on. Look at this statistic here. 55 attempts from Bryce Young. Colin, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, like you said, the Cardinals have got super lucky with their scheduling, playing the Saints and then the Panthers, arguably the two worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
Bryce Young, I was kind of hoping he would bounce back. He looked good at the end of last year,
Yeah.
but it kind of has not carried over for him very well so far this season.
Yeah.
I am a fan of Bryce Young. I don't like Alabama, but I think Bryce Young's he seems like a good person,
Yeah.
so I kind of pull for him. So hopefully he can bounce back.
Yeah.
But statistics wise, it looks like the Panthers kind of dominated the game.
Yeah, again, the stats will lie to you sometimes. And of course, the big headline here, which is really cool, Calais Campbell getting the game-winning sack with 26 seconds left. That's a 39-year-old coming up with the game-winning sack. But I think that Bryce Young last year into the season did look really good. I did think it was going to carry over, and like you said, I think he's a really, really good dude. He's always been really positive off the field, and even through some of the struggles he had in his rookie year, very, very positive player. I mean, getting benched for Andy Dalton is never great for a number one overall pick, but he has the simple mistakes that just keep coming back, and it's that he just makes really bad reads and really bad decisions here and there, and it's completely costing him. They don't have much of a run game in this one. Hubbard only having the 38 yards, but part of that being the fact that he's thrown the ball 55 times, and so some of that could be your play calling. And I don't know how much I love what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. I do think Tetairoa McMillan, however, is going to be really, really nice for Bryce Young. He finally has that real legit weapon on the outside because Xavier Legette just hasn't really worked out. I don't know what to expect out of the Panthers. If you got last year late season Bryce Young, probably would have won this one. And you do see they had a resurgence there towards the end in the fourth quarter, scoring 13 compared to the Cardinals 0. But I don't know. Like you said, I think the Panthers are going to be fighting for that top pick, and then you're going to have that real conversation of what do we do? Do we move on from Bryce Young? And because this quarterback class has some potential to be pretty good, and some of those top tier guys have struggled a little bit in college football, but I do think that there's still some real talent in there. But I don't know what you would do. I mean, would you take Bryce Young and deal him out to somebody and try to get a huge return on him because of the still potential? Or would you stick with him another year and miss the opportunity to potentially take a future franchise quarterback? It is definitely going to be a very compelling decision that the Panthers will have to make. Moving on to our next game here, Eagles Chiefs, and this was a legit Super Bowl rematch. And you just kind of saw the dominance of the tush push, and that is the highlight of this game. Chris Jones. There's a very viral clip of him at the end of the game looking over at Jalen Hurts and saying, "You don't even have 100 yards. You don't even have 100 yards." And he goes, "Why don't you shut up? Look who's winning." And that's it. I mean, he didn't say anything else back because it's just facts. I mean, the Eagles, overpower teams a lot of the time. They do sometimes. I mean, they blew the Commanders out of the water last year in that playoff game. But they just know how to win these really close, grueling, tough fights. And a lot of it is on the backs of Jalen Hurts' running game, but also on the back of what is a definite Hall of Fame career with that 2,000-yard season or last year from Barkley. Colin, what's your overall thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't know. As a Chiefs fan, when you start to kind of panic a little bit,
Yeah,
you're 0-2 now. Granted, you played the Chargers and the Eagles, which are two really good teams,
yeah,
but I mean, they don't look the same as they have in the past when they were just dominating teams. Kelsey, you see, he drops the pass in the end zone, leads to a pick. I mean, Mahomes still looks good,
yeah,
but I don't think he looks nearly as dominant as he once did. I would still choose him over pretty much every quarterback in the
yeah,
league, but I think they need to possibly trade for like a Tyreek Hill or something, get some more weapons.
yeah.
But Chiefs are, I don't want to say the dynasty's over, but they're definitely nowhere near as dominant as they once were.
Yeah, and that's kind of crazy them coming off that Super Bowl, but it even showed in that game that although they were able to make plays and get to that point last year, I would have said the same thing. I wouldn't have thought that they were going to be, as good as they were in that playoff run.
Right.
Part of that being they're probably the best coach team. I mean, Andy Reid is an all-time coach, but it does look like this team, it's not near as talented as it was 2 to 3 years ago. I do think another thing with this one, of course, is the fact that the Eagles are going to get probably reviewed again at the end of the year for the tush push. If you saw this one, there was a lot of clips that also come out of that was their offensive line, all of the offensive line. I mean, I'm talking literally every one of them is over the ball before the ball snapped. And there was multiple times where the guards even moved prior to the
Right.
ball being snapped. But it is so hard for a referee to get an angle on that where you just can't see the guard's slight movement before they go, or even the line where the ball is, because the defensive linemen's helmets are touching the offensive linemen's helmets. So, is there a way to stop this play? I don't think with the way the Eagles run it there is. But also at the same time, you got to give them their respect because they're the only one in the league that can do it. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes for them, and just see if the Eagles are able to keep things going, and can the Chiefs maybe bounce back and get a win here or there because 0-2, rough, rough start for the Chiefs. Moving on to this next one here, Falcons, Vikings. Obviously, the Falcons pretty much dominated from start to finish in this one. And again, the big storyline would be how much JJ McCarthy struggled. Colin, what were your thoughts here?
Yeah, McCarthy, he didn't look great in the beginning of his first game, but then he comes back at the end of the game. He looks really good the last quarter. And now this game, he did not look good any, and now he's injured as well. So that's not good for the Vikings. Another thing to mention, speaking of Virginia Tech, John Parker Romo signed by the Falcons, went 5 for 5. So there's that.
Tech kickers, baby. Tech kickers.
That's about the only thing we produce, it seems. But Bijan had 22 carries, 143 yards, and then also Tyler Algier had 16 carries, and he had a really good game as
Yeah.
well. So, I mean, if the Falcons can limit teams to 6 points and are absolutely dominant on the ground, they could be a team to look out for.
Yeah, and again, I love their quarterback. I think Michael Penix has really shown the strides he needed to take. I think at the end of the year last year, you kind of got a preview of how good he could be. And something you didn't see in college is he's using his legs. I mean, he's making plays. And in college, I mean, part of that being the fact that he was injured for 3 years of his college career with a multitude of injuries. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of all the things he did. So he's kind of, I guess, got more confident in his body, knowing that he's got the best training staff in the world. He's got the best doctors in the world. So those guys are taking care of him, and he's ready to go. And he's going out there and making plays. And I think that Penix looks like the man. I mean, he looks like the guy. And a lot of people questioned that and said, "Man, what are you doing? You just signed Kirk." But Kirk, I think, clearly showed he's at the end of his career. So it's good. And now it looks like a genius move if he turns out to be your guy that you went out and grabbed him. And then on the other side, like you said, McCarthy's struggles are going to be documented pretty well because I myself thought it was a really bad pick at the time. I know he had the pedigree of winning a national championship, but part of that was the fact that his offense had 28 or 29 rushing touchdowns from one player in Blake Corum. The other part of that was their other running back also had a multitude of rushing touchdowns in Donovan Edwards. So that team was really, really good defensively. They were really, really good at running the ball, and they were able to hide any weaknesses that McCarthy had. And I think that that kind of showed in these first two games. Is I do think he's a solid quarterback, but I don't think he can be the guy for a team. I think they're probably going to be upset that they moved on from Sam Darnold after the season he had, where he was, I mean, arguably one of the best performances they've had from a quarterback in a while. But I will say, Kevin O'Connell is a absolute quarterback whisperer. I mean, if anybody can fix somebody, it's him. You saw what he did with Darnold. So who knows what they get the rest of the year. Jefferson obviously doesn't have a crazy game either because of McCarthy's struggles. And it'll be interesting because this Vikings team was kind of expected to compete again, especially when they said, "This is our guy. We've got our guy." And I don't know how much that's a true statement anymore. Moving on to our next game here, the game that decided our matchup in fantasy football. The Buccaneers and the Texans played a really, really good game. And call me crazy, but if there is a game-winning drive, I don't know if I'd take any quarterback in the NFL over Baker Mayfield. This dude, time and time again, when it matters the most, now not that he's the best quarterback in the NFL, that's not what I'm saying, but when it comes down to it, he is the single best quarterback in the NFL at winning you the game. And it's something that just clicks, and it's the kind of player that he is. It was what he was when he was at Oklahoma in college. He would make all the big plays when they mattered the most. That's why he won a Heisman. That's why he went first overall. He even showed those flashes with the Browns. Heck, he came in and won a Rams game at the end with a 98-yard drive, and he had learned the offense 2 days ago. So again, if there's anybody in the league I'm taking to win me a game, it's Baker Mayfield. Colin, you saw it happen for you. He won you a game. I
Yeah,
mean,
he won me a game.
if you could take anybody, would you take Baker Mayfield?
Uh, Maybe like a Mahomes or something over him, but the list is very small.
Yeah.
It is a super small list, if any. Overall, this was a great game. You see Tampa Bay's kicker miss there towards the end, give the Texans a chance. They come down and score, and then, like you said, Baker just leads a touchdown drive to win the game.
Yeah.
Time and time again.
It just feels like if he's going to get the ball at the end, and this is crazy, it's not the Tom Brady effect, but it's like really weird that he just clicks that
Yeah,
next he just goes into overdrive and he's just able to do it. And again, it wasn't his offensive coordinator. That guy's gone. It was Baker. It's Baker being able to do these outstanding things. And he doesn't even have who was his favorite target a season ago for the first 6, 7 weeks of the season. So again, when that guy comes back, how much better does this offense get? They're now looking at 2-0. I think they're probably one of the better teams in the NFC. I know there was a lot of hype before the year started on the potential to them to make a Super Bowl run and be a favorite in the NFC. I really love the Buccaneers. Like that's really one of the easier teams to pull for me. When they had Bruce Arians, of course, Virginia Tech, great. I loved him when he was there. Loved pulling for them then. So it's even easier now to transition over and pull for Baker Mayfield, who I've always liked, and just to be able to pull for the Buccaneers. It is very, very fun to see this team rolling. And obviously, I loved them beating the Texans because I cannot stand the Texans. And I've been right both times to start the season that the Texans were going to lose games. And I think that the big issue for them, if you wanted to talk about the Texans, is the fact that they let their offensive line get worse in an offseason where they clearly needed to make a massive upgrade on that offensive line. They lose Laramie Tunsil via their own decision to trade him, and they don't go out and replace him. And last year, Stroud struggled due to the fact that he was getting sacked more than anybody in the league, and or up at the top of the league. Now, I don't know if it was the most, but then you decide, hey, let's get rid of the single best graded left tackle when it comes to pass blocking in the NFL. What is the logic behind that move? I just don't understand it at all. And again, I think it's biting the Texans in the butt right now, starting out 0-2 in what is a very winnable division. And now they're way behind to a Colts team that has looked really good to start the year. And then moving into our final game of this week, obviously there was two Monday Night Football games, and one of them comes on at 10 o'clock at night, which was a heck of an experience, but they were playing on the West Coast, and that is why those fans got their game at like what 6 or 7 for them. Is it what time it would have been if it's 10
Uh,
Eastern?
yeah, it would have been like 7.
Yeah, and so they get to go out and it's just like a normal Monday Night Football game for them. But I do think that the Chargers kind of once again prove that their defense can do a lot for them this year. They were the number one scoring defense in the NFL last year, which was a really big deal. And of course, they lost Khalil Mack in this one. It was a pretty brutal injury. Again, that it was nasty. I don't recommend watching that video. His elbow kind of went the other direction. So I don't know how much you're going to get out of Khalil Mack for the rest of the year, which does seem like a pretty big loss. But his replacement ends up being one of the ones that gets a huge sack towards the end of the game. So they are able to replace that. And I just think that they're extremely well coached. I think that's another part of why the Chargers have been so good and why I think that they can be a legit Super Bowl contender this season. Colin, what's your thoughts on these two teams?
Yeah, I wasn't able to stay up the whole time and watch this one,
Yeah.
but the Chargers kind of they didn't dominate the game, but they had control of the game pretty
Yeah.
much the whole time. I think the Chargers are definitely a really good team.
Mhm.
Herbert's looked really good so far this year, and then I think for the Raiders, I think Geno Smith will keep you mediocre. I don't see them. They might make the playoffs, borderline, but I don't see them doing too much this year.
Yeah, and again, this is kind of one of those teams that they're going to rely on those draft picks they just made. They need an Ashton Genty to get going. He hasn't had the greatest start to his NFL career. They have Dante Thornton on the outside. Of course, they're relying on a lot of different guys to make plays for them. Jack Besh was a young drafted receiver for them as well, and so that they need a lot of this youth movement that they've brought in to make a difference. And it's kind of funny because their coaching is the exact opposite of a youth movement when you're talking about 70-year-old Pete Carroll. So it'll be interesting to see how long is he there. I think probably you're going to get the same timeline of Geno and Pete Carroll. So and whenever Geno's done and when he moves on, I think Pete Carroll will probably move on. But it is good to set them up and to get a good little start. And I do think you're right. I think this team has, they have a Brock Bowers who might arguably be the best tight end in football already. And they have those pieces. They have little sparks, glimmers of hope, but then they also have a terrible second half. I mean, it was awful. Every opportunity they got, they threw away. Geno ends up throwing 3 interceptions in this one. Now, I will say one of them was on an unbelievable play from Derwin, and of course, you know what Derwin does at the safety position. He's an absolute game wrecker, game changer. So, do they get things going later in the year? Maybe, but I do think the Chargers. Call me crazy. I think they win this division this year. I think that they will beat the Chiefs, which is going to be an unbelievable feat to do because the Chiefs have owned that division for a long time and they are the kings of the AFC and have been for a while. But the Chargers proved it week one that they have a team that can compete with and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So give me them the rest of the way this season. Going forward, looking at our games for week three of the NFL season, we'll go through and just make a quick pick and prediction for these games. I'll go ahead and start us off with the first one here, Miami on the road to Buffalo. I'm going to take Buffalo. I think Josh Allen will be back and ready to go. So give me the Bills in a pretty big win here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Buffalo as well. Miami's looked pretty bad this year, so and Buffalo's looked really good. So go
Yeah,
ahead and get Buffalo.
they've been able to get things rolling easy early on. Moving on to our Sunday day slate, it's going to be Green Bay on the road to Cleveland. I think Green Bay is a heavy, heavy favorite in this one. I don't expect Cleveland to give them much of a game. Give me Green Bay with a really strong defensive performance.
Yeah, two pretty easy picks first two games. Give me Green Bay as well.
Yeah, and then moving into this next one, this is going to be, my heart's in this one. As you can see, I've got the Titans merch on right now. It is our home game against the Colts. That is a team that we generally split with, and I've seen really promising things from Cam Ward. So give me him winning his first NFL game here.
I'm gonna have to go against you on this one, Mags. I'm gonna have to go with Colts on this one. I think Daniel Jones has looked really good so far this year, and I know the Titans defense is pretty good, but I look to see him lead the Colts to a win here.
Yeah, and obviously he can get things going against us. I've never we never beat Andrew Luck when he was their quarterback, so hopefully it's not the same thing with Danny Dimes. Moving on to our next one here, Cincinnati on the road to Minnesota, and this one being a really interesting game because we're going to see Jake Browning at the helm for the Bengals. Again, I do think that Minnesota struggles at quarterback, but I do think they pick this one up at home. Really, really great environment for them.
I think I'm gonna go with Cincinnati on this one. I know Jake Browning. He got quite a bit of experience last year, so I think he can lead the Bengals to a win here against Minnesota.
Moving on to our next one here. Obviously, you got your heart in this one. Pittsburgh going on the road to New England, and I'm going to make you happy here with the pick. I think Pittsburgh goes on the road and gets a big win here. I love Rodgers, and I just think that they're going to be able to get this one done over a New England team that struggled early on.
Yeah, I'm I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh as well. Hopefully that run defense can shut New England down a little bit better than they have the first 2 weeks. So I'm gonna go Pittsburgh.
Moving on to our next one here, LA on the road against the defending Super Bowl champions in the Philadelphia Eagles. I do think this will be a really, really good game, and I think this could be your first Eagles loss, but I'm going to side with the Eagles. I just think that that dominant offense as well as a really strong defense is able to get it done here.
Yeah, like you say, I think this game will be really good, but I'm gonna go with the Eagles as well.
Next one coming up here, New York on the road against Tampa Bay. A really quick and easy pick for me. Give me Tampa Bay at home in Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pretty easy here. Give me Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and we'll see the bake show once again to see if he keeps on baking. Moving on to Las Vegas at Washington. I do think Washington has had some scares with their offense so far. It kind of slowed down from last year. We've seen teams kind of figure out that they're going to run that college system, but I will take Washington at home here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Washington at home here. I think this game might be pretty interesting, but I'm gonna go with Washington.
Next up here, Atlanta on the road to Carolina. Atlanta, again, early on, the defense has been pretty strong, which I think is a really good sign for them. And I do think Michael Penix is the future, whereas I don't know if Bryce Young is. Give me Atlanta on the road.
I think I'm gonna actually go with the upset here. Look for Bryce Young to bounce back and lead Carolina to a win over Atlanta in this one. So that's gonna be my upset pick for the week, I think.
Yeah, and I might give you one here in just a second, but so far I've been pretty on the well, I guess I gave you the Titans. That technically be an upset so far. Houston on the road to Jacksonville. I do think Houston has had their early struggles and they're really needing a huge win. I do think they go on the road here and get a win. Part of that being the fact that they need CJ Stroud to perform. A lot of pressure on him, so I think he gets it done here.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think Houston's got too much talent, so I think I'm gonna go with them over Jacksonville.
Moving on to our next one here, an awesome matchup between AFC West rivals. Denver on the road against LA. I think the Chargers have looked really, really good early on, and it's going to be crazy to see Denver drop to 1-2. But that's what I'm going to have is the Chargers get a win here at home.
I think I'm gonna give the Chargers the first loss of the year. I believe in Bo Nix. I'm a Bo believer. Give me Denver.
Good segment there. On to our next one here. New Orleans going on the road to Seattle. I don't think New Orleans is going to be very heavy favorites in any game they play all season, especially not going on the road. Give me Seattle at home.
Yeah, I watched Seattle uh, dissect Pittsburgh last week on offense. So go ahead and give me Seattle as well.
Going on to our next one here, a big time rivalry, two teams that absolutely hate each other. I do think Chicago has a better chance when they're playing on Soldier Field, but give me Dallas to go in there and get a win.
Yeah, Dak has looked really good so far this year, so I'm gonna go with Dallas as well.
Our next one coming up, going to be Arizona going on the road to San Fran. I do think San Fran has something to worry about without Brock Purdy, but I was never super high on this Arizona Cardinals roster, so give me them having their first loss to San Francisco and the Mac Jones led offense.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals on this one. Uh, I don't know that Mac Jones can produce like he did last week, 2 weeks in a row. I guess we'll see, but I'm gonna go Arizona.
Moving on to our next one here, got Kansas City on the road to New York, and this again is a really, really tough matchup because New York actually has a pretty good defense. Brian Burns coming off the edge and making a big difference early on in the season, but I think Kansas City, there's just no chance they drop to 0-3, so give me the win there for them.
Yeah, I think this is. I don't want to say a must win because it's only week 3, but I don't see Kansas City falling to 0-3. I'm a roll with the Chiefs.
Yeah, it just can't happen that early. And then moving on to Monday Night Football, probably up there with some of the best games of this entire week. We've got Detroit on the road against Baltimore. Again, this one's going to be one everybody's tuned into. I think Lamar Jackson, again, he's that MVP level player. Derrick Henry didn't get things going last game. I think he does in this one. I think we'll see another Derrick dominance game, trying to push towards getting maybe another 2,000 yard season some point in his career, which almost solidify him as a Hall of Famer. Give me Baltimore with a win here.
Yeah, I'm with you at this one. In Baltimore, I think Derrick Henry gets rolling again. Although the Detroit offense looked great last week, they're not playing the Bears this week, so I'm gonna go Baltimore.
Yeah, and that'll pretty much wrap it up for looking at the NFL this week. We will probably try to get a different setup going where we'll do a little bit more in-depth dive into those games at some point. But for our first podcast, we tested things out, see how things went. I enjoyed it. Colin, how about you?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. We'll try and change things up a little bit, see what we liked, see what we didn't like. But I enjoyed it. It'd be the first time on the podcast.
Yeah, again, I loved having you on. Obviously, me and Colin have been friends for a very long time. Our mothers are best friends. I think they pretty much hang out every single day. So we'll have to obviously keep this rolling. It'll be a fun thing. And again, I love talking football. You know that, and I know you do too. We talk about it all the time off screen. So he was like, let's do an NFL segment. And he said, I know you podcast, and he was like, we talk about it anyways. So why not do it and put it on YouTube? And again, it's a good thing for me. It's what I want to do as a job. And I know as long as you're having fun with it, I think that's the most important part.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
Again, we'll probably come back with every single week. The goal will be to do a recap and a pick in the same video, unlike my college football videos. Part of that being the fact that NFL, it's really short, the amount of time you have between games. If we film on Tuesday, I'm going to have it uploaded on Wednesday, and then there's a game on Thursday. So it's a
Right.
really short period of time to get things done. And so hopefully we'll be able to keep getting them out. Probably it could be on Wednesdays. Again, if you're seeing this for the first time, as it is our first NFL one, this will be coming out on a Wednesday. And again, look for my normal release time of probably 7 o'clock. Colin, again, if there's anything else you want to add, this is your time to do so.
Yeah, just a couple good games to watch this week, especially that Monday night game. I look forward to watching it, and hopefully Pittsburgh gets him another win.
Yeah, and again, I'm on the same boat with you. I cannot stand losing to the Colts, so hopefully the Titans are able to get something done there. And again, for me, I'm not even watching for wins. I'm watching just to see how Cam Ward plays. I've
Yeah,
loved the connection he's built with Alec Minor early on in the season, and I think that I was super high on him. I don't know how he fell to the fourth round. So early on, he's been one of my favorite players to watch. So again, I'm just super excited for the Titans to play. Posting my college football podcast should be coming out on probably Thursday, and then I'll be doing my mostly Hokies content that'll probably release some point this week. It may even be coming out tomorrow morning, or this would be technically coming out on Wednesday, so it'll be coming out today, Wednesday morning. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us. Like, subscribe, follow along if you guys enjoy the content, and peace.